I love where you can bring in, upon occasion, some other perspectives from a religious standpoint or a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, I don't want to be defined as the Rev title.
No.
I'm a person.
Yeah, I mean, so just, those are great shares. And then, we'll sometimes come from a more Christian perspective, especially if we're going to quote the Bible.
We all have more. We all have more information, just like when you call me a coach.
That's a taste of Love Wins. This week's episode of The Wise Guys, a podcast that unleashes the unthinkable in culture, religion, business, and everyday life. This week, the guys tackle a sensitive topic about God's character relating to heaven and hell. So, it's time to step over the line, strap in, and see if you are willing to let Mac, the Rev, and Coach Stu take you to a place of thinking differently.
Welcome to The Wise Guys, a podcast where we unleash the unthinkable, step over the line, and help us to see things differently as we go to the inside edge. And hi, I'm Mac. I'm your host. And in this episode, guess what, Rogers? Love wins. Pretty strong statement, right? But we're going to look at that truth through a few lenses and try to pull some wise perspective to it. So the wise guys are in the house. Coach Stu.
Hey, Mac. How you doing?
Man.
It's good to see you.
Same here,
The
brother.
coach is Mr. Love himself.
I am exuding love tonight.
Kindness, compassion, humility, and gentleness.
And we got the Rev.
I'm here.
Hey,
I'm
Rev.
all about love. I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Very good. We're going to have some
Good
fun.
to see you both.
As always, man. It's great to see you guys. So how's our gang doing out there? What do you think, Stu? Yeah? Yeah, the cocktails, man.
Yeah, how about all those people out there, all of you out there? Hello to all of you. The beautiful exotic cocktails.
Spit it out.
Out there. The love it's got me tongue-tied. The love has got me tongue-tied.
He's just...
I love all of you out there.
He's
Yeah.
We have
shining.
some new
I'm all-
cocktails that are tuning in. I talked to 2 and 3 people this
Yeah.
week that said, "Man, I like what you're putting out there. I'm going to tell my friends." So
That's encouraging.
welcome to
fantastic.
anybody who's new is listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If this is your first time, man, this is awesome. Welcome.
We see you.
I like that's right.
Welcome to the Love
Plug
Shack.
in. All right. And one thing I wanted to add this week too. I was out on our website the other day, and if you've been listening to us, fantastic. If you've never been out to the website, I would ask you to go on out there to the homepage. At the bottom of our homepage, we've got some of our favorite reads.
Oh, yeah,
some of
yeah.
our favorite books
Right.
that we've read.
Favorite reads, but you've got some blogs on there as well that are pretty amazing, Mac. You're an amazing writer.
Yeah, they're pretty fun. We were just talking about that earlier. Sometimes I'll read them and I'll go, who wrote that? Oh, I guess that was me. Man. How about that? Wow. But yes, thank you for the compliment, Rev. And we just love for you to go out the website and see what we're thinking, see what we're reading, see what we're doing, in addition to the episodes here, and give us some feedback. If you like it, or if a book happened to have just floated your boat and changed your life in any way, you let us know.
Yeah, we want to hear about it. That's how sometimes I get new books to read.
Absolutely. So,
Well, if you like it, I want to know if you don't like it, because then it's a new perspective coming into our little pot here, and I think it's good to hear what your views are.
I love it.
They don't have to agree with everything we say.
heck no.
This is true.
That's just very good. Thanks for.
That's a form of love we may be coming to later on in this episode.
Could be.
You're okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. You're okay. Yeah.
So what we're saying is, if you don't agree with us, then we don't love you.
No, I said
We
No.
do love you.
No,
Anyway.
he ain't heavy. He's my brother.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. So anyway, that's just an encouragement. Go on out there, look at it. All right. As we do every week, we've got some words to the wise.
Oh yeah, another sign.
And this is from a sign, a church sign. Right here, same old. All right. And here's what it said. Just love everyone. I'll sort them out later. God. Okay.
So that's God
Quote
saying
from
that.
God.
Signed God, yours truly.
Signed God. Just love everyone. I'll sort them out later. Signed God. All right. All right, guys. All right, wise guys. Go ahead. I'm opening the floor. What are you thinking?
I've been going first the last couple of times. Let me hear what you guys have to say.
All right.
You know what's
ahead,
interesting
Stu.
about this? I actually heard this said. God said this to me.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
All right.
He said this. So I'm with it. I mean, this is like high on my list. So what would that be? A +3?
Well, if
Plus
you're,
3.
if you feel that good about
Just
it,
love everyone. Let God sort it out. I'm not here to sort anybody out, to judge anybody. I'm just here to love people.
just love them. That's a good default, isn't it? It's a good default. All right.
All right, Mac, what about you?
Me, here's the thing. I'm going to give this a 0.
Well, welcome to my world. I'm getting it all.
The Rev is having an impact on you.
But here's why.
I'm infected.
You see, I love the first part of it. Just love everybody, man. Just like Stu was saying, just love everybody. Forget about all the rest of it, okay? But the second half, so I'm like +3 on that, okay?
Right.
But then when it comes to the second half of that, there's a sorting still. There's still this idea that we're going to sort them out.
I hear you, and I heard that, or I read that differently, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're going to say, okay, you people over here, you people over there, some of you people over here.
Right.
I think God is just saying that because that's what some people need to hear here.
Oh, well, maybe you're right. Okay.
He needs, right, and so that.
Yeah.
Well, and then you're going to have the Rev perspective, which is completely different.
-3. Here we go.
It's a total +3.
Oh,
it is a +3.
Look at that.
But I take the idea of God as a personality, separating people. I like to look at it as karma. It's law. God as law. And it's the old phrase that says you're not punished for your sins, you're punished by your sins.
Yeah.
Karma sucks. I love everybody, and I'm going to be just fine. Those who love receive more love. Those who don't receive the consequences of not giving love away. So it's a total karmic +3 for me.
Well, look at that.
I like that. I've seen that happen.
Wait. You said +3?
I did, yeah.
Now, this is completely out of character.
Yeah, I went all the way to the edge. I said I would never do that, but I did anyway. I went all the way to the edge.
All right, gang.
Welcome to the inside.
How did that happen? I think I'm confused right now.
That's all right, but you're loved, man. Don't worry about it, okay?
I'm just feeling the love.
So there we go. We've got 2 +3s and a 0. All right, that's our perspective on this one. So we hope you enjoyed it. You're more than welcome to engage with us and let us know what you might have thought about it. That would be fun. All right. So we're gonna press into this whole idea that love wins. All right. Now you may be shaking your head a little bit at that. You may be going, "What's he talking about? I mean, how does that work?" But let's go. We're going to start this episode with something that the ancient church adopted. And, Bible writings, those all developed over time. And, that there's a whole story behind all of that. But very simply, what the church began to run through their grid, what was their litmus? What was the sieve that all of it ran through? And one of them was the thing that was called a rule of love. Okay, the church, and I say, a commonality within the church, the early Christian church. And here's what the rule of love says. Whoever then thinks that he or she understands the Holy Scriptures or any part of them, but puts such an interpretation upon them as does not tend to build up this twofold love of God and love of neighbor, does not yet understand them as he ought. And to me, that's a very beautiful saying that says, look, you can read the Bible all you want. You can read the Scriptures all you want. You can highlight them and underline them and put different colors and all this other kind of stuff, and then come up with a theology that you're going to base around all that. But if whatever you think about whatever it is you just read does not line up with love God, love your neighbor, okay, then you better rethink it.
Well, I'm going to be so bold to say it's a completely false doctrine. It's built upon a lie. At least from my vantage point and my belief system, you cannot love God and not love your neighbor. Otherwise, it's a house built on sand, and it's based on a lie.
Wow, that's pretty strong there, Rev.
Can I jump in your boat for a second?
Welcome on in.
I'm going to jump into the Rev's boat here, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say how you love people is how you love God.
I'm welcome to the boat, brother. We're in the
fun
same
in here.
place. You know, the reality is my belief system, just my doctrine that I espouse, is that God is the only power at work on the planet, and God is love itself.
Right.
And therefore, if it's the only power, God is expressed as all people. All people, no exclusion. And so my job is to just be the presence of God, sharing love. It's God exchanging God with God.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to rock some people's world, but the reality
Good.
is it's...
Good. That's okay.
Well, Jesus showed us how to do this. He met people where they are, right?
Right.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Absolutely.
He met them right where they are.
Yeah.
No matter who. And I feel fortunate that I feel like I can do this. Like I can jump into any group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And feel okay being there and have good conversations
Sure.
with them as if like I'm part of the crew.
Well, absolutely, man.
That's living the Christ life. The example was put out there. He crossed borders. He crossed boundaries. He went and talked to the people that you weren't supposed to talk to,
Right.
because that's what love does.
Exactly. Well, that's what we love about you.
Who
Stu.
says you weren't supposed to talk to him? Come on, Brad. This boat is going to the island of love.
The love boat.
Oh, I don't think I have that theme song in a clip. I should have, But we've talked about this too. I think I've even done a meme on this that said, what's life? What's our life's purpose? That whole kind of thing that's out there. And very simply upon occasion, I've said to be a distribution center for God's love.
Right.
And we tend to want to be, a lot of times we want to be collection centers as opposed to distribution centers,
What if we were to just take God out of the equation there for a minute, to just be a distribution center of love, which is in essence expressing God?
I would say that would work too. Yeah. Okay. So there we are. So that, we have this idea of God as love. And if that's the case, God is love, right? We're going to go to a place to start this off. In 2011, one of our favorite guys, Rob Bell, wrote a book called Love Wins. And we're going to take some of the nuggets from that as just sort of a jumping off point. But that book just absolutely rocked the evangelical world. Right?
It did.
For good reason, as a matter of fact. But it had a profound effect on me. Because a lot of the stuff that Rob talks about in that book, first of all, I had already been mulling over and thinking and all that. I'm not trying to say I'm as smart as Rob Bell, but
Rob Bell had the guts to say a lot of things that a lot of people were feeling in the religious world.
This is true. I resonated with him because I said, oh my gosh, there's this guy like Rob, and he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking, oh, thank you. It was one of those, thanks for taking the tomatoes here, man, because you're definitely taking them. Okay. So, with that, I've set you up a little bit, but what I want to do is he has a little promo out there. We're going to put a link in the show notes to this little 3-minute video. We're not going to play the whole thing here, but I want to take a little snippet of it because I think it's a great jumping off point for where this conversation is going to go. So hang on for a second here. We're going to play it.
Gandhi's in hell? He is? And someone knows this for sure and felt the need to let the rest of us know? Will only a few select people make it to heaven? And will billions and billions of people burn forever in hell? And then there is the question behind the questions. The real question, what is God like? Because millions and millions of people were taught that the primary message, the center of the gospel of Jesus, is that God is going to send you to hell unless you believe in Jesus. And so what gets subtly sort of caught and taught is that Jesus rescues you from God. But what kind of God is that we would need to be rescued from this God? How could that God ever be good? How could that God ever be trusted? And how could that ever be good news?
Wow.
Powerful.
Isn't that? I've
heard that so many times, but every time I hear it, it just amazes me that I used to think that way.
You know what I
Right?
love?
I
He's
mean-
just asking questions. It's all he's doing. And
Yeah.
he took the tomatoes because he just asked questions. Well,
Yeah.
how weak is my theology that somebody asking me a question causes me to have to be that defensive? They're beautiful questions.
Yeah. I mean, there's the book. I mean, I can't say good enough about the book. So any of you that might want to get it and read it, we would love to hear how you react to it. All right. That goes maybe without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. All right. But some nuggets that came out of that book. I want to hit these, fairly quickly because again, they just sort of set us up. Rob just got so much wisdom, I think, in that book and perspective. And so one of the notes that I took from it, one of the nuggets I took from it was he said in there that we shape our God and then our God shapes us. So in other words, we got to be really careful because we take a look and we make a God up, that we can live with, that makes it sound like, it makes sense to us. And then we let that God shape us. And think about the consequences of that, because what you believe about God matters. I mean, it frames everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That seems, the word that comes to mind for me is that seems like limiting. Like if I'm shaping God, my brain can only
That's right. You're
do
finite,
so
man.
much. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm limiting God by trying to shape him.
I'm really curious. The fact is that isn't it amazing that God doesn't like the same people I don't like, or that God, has the same exact thought that I have. What isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We have made God a personality based on our own personalities,
Yeah.
and it has narrowed the field of what love is to a very small box.
So I get why that happened, Rev, and why people do that, because it's how we think, right?
Right.
We're trying to relate in some way. So I get it, and I just challenge everybody to try to think differently about it,
Oh,
right?
think differently.
Yeah.
I'm on that, man.
Open that corner of your mind.
try something new,
Right.
Try a different thought,
Right.
and see what happens.
This book and this discussion
It helps you to get there.
will definitely
Yeah.
prompt a lot of that.
But
kind
how
of thinking.
scared is the religious world these days to, just try something new. You're going to go to hell if you do. If you ask a question, you're going to go to hell. No, you're going to try something different, or just listen to somebody who's different belief system. Nope, you're going to go to hell. We are so afraid at the core of stepping outside the line a little bit that, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm going
You
to
just
hell.
took me straight back to Sunday school.
Yeah, that's why I
in the
was
Catholic Church when I was in elementary school. Because right after I would have said something like this, I'd have been put in the corner and my parents would have been called.
Well,
Do you know what little Johnny said? Like, oops.
see, this is
I just have questions,
love's
right?
not
That's
winning.
it.
I mean,
Love's not winning here.
this is a good point to make. I mean, yeah, love's not winning in that. It's okay for you to have questions. Like
Sure.
you should never feel guilty
Right.
if you say them out loud or even just think them and think, oh, I shouldn't even be thinking this.
Yeah.
I
Right.
shouldn't be having this question. Not true. God can handle your questions.
Well,
God welcomes the questions.
well, this kind of gets to one of our talking points here too. That says, in his book, this is still some of the nuggets from the book. God is as much the question as the answer. Right. Now think about that for a second. That's pretty profound. That's like a koan or something like that, right? God is as much the question as the answer. So again, what did Jesus do when people asked him a question?
I right back.
Yeah, he asked the question
asked
back.
the question back, yeah.
Right, So, we got to understand, again, when we're forming this perception of the Almighty, first of all, as Stu said, it's finite because we're finite. We can't figure that all out by any means. But God asks more questions than gives answers, I think is really the cool thing about that, in general. Because why? Why does a teacher ask questions?
To get your brain to
expand.
work, to think, to get you thinking.
Moving, man.
It's
Right.
a Socratic method that works for learning and growth and evolution.
Yeah.
It is an expansive mindset. It's an expansive energy, not contractive. If I'm living only in the answers that I had for the last 10 years, I'm contracting. And questions open up the
That's
field of
scary.
my mind and it's really scary because I know what I believed 10 years ago.
Yes, I'm thinking the same thing. This ain't about you. Yeah, I'm thinking for me. Oh, man. But how many of you out there are nodding going, yeah, I've done that. Yep, that's me. Yep. Okay. Well,
Be okay with getting put into the corner with Johnny. It's
Yeah.
good company there.
oh boy, I don't know. Unless Billy's poking you in the leg with a
Yeah,
pencil.
right. Yeah.
All right. So
man, here we go.
How about this one? And I thought, Tony Campolo. I don't know if anybody out there listening to us knows him, but he just passed away recently, and he wrote a book years and years ago that talked about adventures in missing the point, which was a really cool title. So I definitely had to buy that and read it. But what they were saying in that book, and the same thing Rob's saying in this book, eternal life. Because this is where we're going with this love wins and the whole eternal life thing, and we're getting there. It starts now. Eternity, everybody's eternity starts now, and then it starts again now, and then now. So instead of going somewhere else, to the heaven or even to the hell. I mean, again, we're going to go, but again, it's away from here. When we have that perspective, as opposed to saying right here, right now.
It's the only place that God exists. It's the only place love exists is now. It's not yesterday or tomorrow. It's not 5 minutes either direction. It is only now.
Yeah.
So when we are living in the future or in the past, we are separating ourselves from love, from God.
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah. Hello. Was this resonating with anybody, or have you already? Well, if I asked you if you've already turned us off, you're not listening. So that probably doesn't make sense. But are you thinking about it? All right. Hang with us a little bit. Maybe this is some stuff right here, some different thinking.
Yeah. Why wait? And when you read this, I was thinking, why wait? Why does anybody want to wait?
Yeah. Well,
just start now. Like, why?
It's all about, as the Rev said, Jesus. What did Jesus say? Hello. Go love your neighbor, like not in eternity.
Yeah.
You know what I also loved is he also said, and when it comes to love, he said, oh, yeah, you love your friends. You love the people that love you. Whoop-de-doo on you. You got to love your enemies. That means love everybody, no exceptions.
Yep. That's it. And it's moved mountains. It's made so many different things happen with the world and with people.
Well, I'm going to give you a quote I brought because I wanted to say this so bad.
Here we go.
We're going to give
Rev
a little
the
bit of
stage.
new thought in here. So we're talking about Jesus. He wrote this: there is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. No disease that enough love will not heal. No door that enough love will not open. No gulf that enough love will not bridge. No wall that enough love will not throw down. No sin that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, or how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, or how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. Love wins.
So we just dropped the mic now, then, right?
Yeah,
we were talking
dropped
about
the mic.
earlier, right? Pretty
That's
short
That's Emmett
episode.
Fox, not me.
That's
But it's the truth. But boy, is it hard to do.
Well, there becomes the follow up to that. So therefore, the therefore, right?
Right.
So in this, we're going to talk about some of those kind of therefores. So last little point, maybe from the book, before we jump into kind of fleshing some of this out from our own perspectives. It's the difference between transformation and condemnation, right? So God's restoration brings God glory. Restoring, coming back. Aha, I love you no matter what. Oh, you're right. I think you do. Okay. But not eternal punishment. That doesn't bring God any glory, Where do we get the idea that is part of the plan? Right, so I know the answer.
God
to that.
loves
I'm
me
being
so much
rhetorical,
that
of course.
He's designed a personal torture chamber for me to torture me in hell. In case I don't walk lockstep in the.
Exactly. So with that, those were some nuggets from Rob's book. We just didn't I'm not even going to say we scratched the surface. So again, I encourage you to read that if this is all resonating with you, because he will blow your mind.
right.
Right.
So let's talk about kinds of love, different kinds of love. And, Mac, what I love about you leading this podcast is that you always give us like an agenda, give us like things to ponder, and it's very, very organized bullet points. So I'm going off script.
Okay, that's all right.
We can talk about your bullet points, but I'm going to. I was listening to some of the Pneuma videos that Rob Bell put out, and
Good stuff.
he talks about different kinds of love. He talks about 3 Hebrew words for love that are in the Bible, right? And they mean different things. So I'm probably not going to say these words correctly. I'm going to do the best I can with them. But the first one is called raya. Raya. Okay. And so that kind of love, and this is in the Bible, right? That kind of love is friendship or companion love. It's a bond of closeness, I can't say this word, familiarity. Somebody say it for me.
Familiarity.
Yeah, there you go. And shared life experiences.
Yes.
So that's one. So another is ahava. I think it's how you say it, ahava. So it's deep commitment and affection. This is the love that perseveres, goes beyond feelings, is based on intentional choice and dedication.
Okay.
And the last one is dod, spelled D-O-D, dod. I think that's how you say it. And this is the romantic, passionate, or physical love, the sensual or intimate aspect of love, often associated with desire. So those 3 kinds of love are all mentioned in the Bible,
Right.
that we can express and experience in life.
Good study, Coach.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're right that they, and even I think it's in 1 John or something, they talk about, those different kinds, and they're called different things. So it's beautiful. I think we're exotic cocktails. Right? I mean, there's a perfect example.
Right.
I try to live my life by agape love. It's unconditional. It is love for the sake of loving. That's it, period. No exceptions.
Yeah. So, we've
Sounds
got
very much like the ahava that you're talking about.
Ahava.
I mean, we've got all kinds of different degrees of, whether it's a parent-child, friends, spouses. How about this? We've been talking about this already. How about just humanity? Just people, period. I mean, I don't have to necessarily have any kind of, or quote, relationship with an individual, although if you believe this, and I think we do, but, we're all one, all right? I mean, everything's interconnected, right? It's all one. Then, love God, love yourself. It's all kind of the same thing.
If I have to know what you think and what you believe to love you, then my love is, again, back to it's false. It's conditional, and it's not, it's a lie.
Right. No.
So if you think about the different people in your life, if you're a parent, or you have a parent, you have a child, friends, spouses, anybody else that's in your world. Do you believe that there are different degrees of love amongst those different groups of people? What do you think?
Well, I think if you want to throw the blanket over it, love is love. Right, you kind of you don't even categorize it, and you don't even try to separate it out. But I think the practical side of it is, there's a general love that you can have for everyone, and then there's the more, as you described it, deeper and, emotional to certain ties to certain people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just the way we're wired.
Is that the ultimate of love? Is it possible to be vibrating as a center of love and absolutely feel love for all creation at that moment? Is that a dimension that means we finally just leave the earth? We've escaped this reality to go to the higher reality. That's my quest. That's my hope that I could get there. I've tasted it. I've touched it just for a moment. And then that person who drives me nuts comes into my head, and it's like, I got more work to do.
Well, we all got more work to do no matter what, right? So but these are beautiful things.
Yeah. So when I saw this question, that's what led me to these 3 Hebrew words, right? And when I was thinking about degrees of love, to me, they're all just a high degree. Like there really isn't degrees of love to me. There's different types, which is what what I mentioned with those 3 Hebrew words, and maybe that's how people think about it.
Right. I think so. Yeah, I would say so. I think that's what
I like to look at love as a multifaceted diamond. It's got many, many sides, and it's been reflecting all over the place, but it's not the diamond itself. That love is the diamond, but there's different ways that love expresses. Can we love? It says here in the notes, we're going back to the notes here, Mac. Can we love the abuser?
Yeah.
I had a lot of kids, and I don't want to go into a long story, but I had one child who was taught by a previous foster parent hate her father who had abused her sexually. She didn't get it. She loved her father and was taught to hate him. The kid was consumed with night terrors. She was consumed with anxiety. She could not function as a child growing up. And we gave her permission that it was okay to love her father, to not like what he had done. He was going to pay the price and go to jail, which he did, but it was okay to love him. She was cured of all of her anxieties, all of her night terrors, all of the nightmares, and she began to be a talented public figure, speaking and drawing people around her, and love was the answer to it. Loving the abuser and not hating him.
Love wins.
Wow.
It heals. Love heals.
Love heals. Wow.
And what's so fantastic about that story,
that.
Rev, is he or she was helping themselves, but it spread throughout the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
It certainly spread throughout the rest of her family. That didn't quite
it certainly did. And if you think about that, I'm sure it spread from there further and further and further.
Oh, of course.
Out, so
Love was
that's
like a pebble thrown into the ocean, and the ripples go, go, go. She, Diane, put a bow on that story. Her father died, and she was at his bedside when he died.
Wow.
And he asked for forgiveness. That never would have happened had love not been present in her heart. And that's hard. Now, I want to be real
Sure.
clear. I'm not
yeah.
saying that that's an easy job.
This is not easy.
No
right?
way. No. We're not making light of this at all.
And I want to be real clear about that,
There's
because
a
it's
lot of
probably the most
struggle.
painful trip, but I guarantee you that you can heal your own heart if you can find that capacity to love.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to ever be at anybody's bedside when they die or go see them in jail.
Right. Well, this is awesome stuff, guys. I mean, we got a couple more major topics that we'll talk about. We'll talk about a little bit of heaven and hell, which is always a great discussion, and it certainly was part of Rob's book. And then, there's no doubt that all of this is a mystery. There's much mystery involved with it. So we're gonna kind of flesh a couple of those concepts out after we take a break here, and we'll come back and see what the wise guys have got to say. Hang on, we'll be right back.
Like what you hear so far? Join us in the Rogue Nation by going to our website, gorogue.life, where you will find links to our social media and podcast channels and a way to subscribe to all our happenings. We encourage you to become a member of our cafe, where you can interact with us and fellow roguers and keep the conversation going. Please share us and like us. Now, let's get back to our wise guys.
All right, welcome back to the Wise Guys podcast, where this episode we're talking love wins. So the first part of the episode, we fleshed a little bit out on Rob Bell's book, Love Wins, some nuggets from him, which kind of really has affected us in his wisdom and his perspective. This was several years ago. And so now I think we'll kind of transition a little bit, and we'll still hit some of the points that were in his book. One of the main ones we're going to start with here has to do with heaven and hell, and that's part of his tagline. And so when you start to talk about love winning, in a blanket sense, the whole 9 yards, everybody, all, use these conclusive words, then you're going to bump up against some theology out there that would create these places that we have, commonly call heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. And what are the ramifications of what is the ramification of that belief or that perspective?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the orthodox? What have you guys all been taught when you were little Johnny sitting in the corner asking questions? What were you taught about heaven and hell?
Yeah, to me, they were actual physical locations I was going to, is how I was taught growing up.
Yeah.
When I die, I hope I've done everything I need to do to get to heaven, which is another place. And you don't want to go to hell. That's another.
I was taught the same thing, and I tell you, I spent a good part of my younger years just scared to death that the devil was going to come visit me and take me away to hell because I wasn't behaving right.
Right.
It was a pretty scary upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to this discussion. There's so many different trails and nuances and perspectives. And again, we want to try to default the best that we can. And Rob does this in his book. He says, well, if love wins, okay, right, then the idea that there is going to be eternal torment, if you will, for people that don't, sign up in the right way. I always called it over the years the innies and the outies. If you're not an innie, okay, eternity's a long time, okay? And so it affects a lot. When you adopt this view of God, like Rob says in that little clip, what kind of God do we need to be?
It doesn't sound so loving to me.
Yeah. Well, this is his point, right?
This doesn't sound like the God I believe in.
Well,
like I have a hard time even imagining I thought that way when I was younger.
Sure. Well, we didn't. I mean,
You were told that's the way you're supposed to think.
That's right.
And you just soaked it up as a child.
right.
Well, this is a good point to make. Is a lot of people and you may be out there, Rogers, listening.
Mm-hmm.
You may have never re-explored God or your faith as an adult. So what you know is what you know from when you were a child and what you were told. Right? And if you don't ever re-explore it, it may never it may stay the same, but maybe not. Like mine changed.
You own it. Now you own it.
Mine changed. Heaven and hell just became states of consciousness. By my definition, if God is love, then when I am involved in the expression and the experience of love, I'm in heaven. And when I am not expressing love, I'm in a place of hell. Who gets to decide? I get to decide. When I'm expressing love, it's heavenly.
Right.
Even with my enemies.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have a capricious God at that point.
Right.
That's pointing fingers, that's choosing, that's this, that's that. I mean, you have to kind of go back to understand when the Bible was written. Because where do we get these ideas, first of all? Right? Mm-hmm. We take the Bible, Old and New Testament, and the words that are in there and how they've developed and how they've changed and how they've, that's a rabbit trail. We're not going to run here.
It's a whole nother episode.
You read my mind and stopped me, cut me off at the pass.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the point is this, that you take an ancient culture trying to understand an infinite God, and you just have to factor all that in. All right, it just was what it was. And people did the best they could do with what they had. But the idea that you couple God needs to be just, God needs sacrifice, God needs blood in order for, things to be right. Those are very ancient, almost, tribal.
They're not so ancient. It's been perpetuated in the whole Christian mythology that says there was a sacrifice of Jesus that to pay all the sins of humanity. That's a mythology that. Yeah. And what you're talking about is antiquity is being perpetrated today.
Well, I agree with that.
And it's being espoused and sent to the next kid and the next kid and the next kid. So it still lives.
Well, I love what he also said in that, he maybe didn't say it in the clip that I played, but there are lots of things when it comes to not just theology, but we'll talk about that right now, and the way you look at God that are subtly caught and taught. I mean, you don't necessarily need to stand up in a classroom, or you don't need to stand up from a pulpit and say A, B, C, and D, but you infer things. You catch it. For instance, if you really believe that God needed to put Jesus, his son, up on a cross and face a bloody death, then what's subtly caught and taught there is violence is part of the way God operates in order to get what God wants.
Right.
Okay? And so therefore, it's not so abhorrent to think that we can go over here and take these indigenous people's stuff and land and everything and ship them off and kill them, because that's the God we serve. I mean,
You know the word sacrifice, what it means? The etymology of the word sacrifice is to just make sacred. And it's not this barbaric thing of sacrificing a life. It's about making sacred. And how do you make something sacred? Bring more love to it.
Yeah.
That's it. Period. Stop there and the violence doesn't have to even factor in.
Well, yes, because why? Because you run it through the love wins grid.
Yep.
You run it through the rule of love that we talked about earlier. If you don't have that litmus, if you don't have that discernment, if you don't have that wisdom, then you're going to get jerked around in all kinds of different directions, and you're not even going to realize certain things that just become part of who you are that cause you to act the way you act.
Okay, I just had like an epiphany, a thought.
Right,
Something's happening. Something's happening right here. There's little
I see an aura going
fireworks
on.
are going on.
Right around.
I have something for us all to do. Everybody out there, right? In any situation that you're in, ask yourself this question.
Here it comes.
How can love win?
Oh.
And then see what happens. Think about how that might change how you view the situation and what you're going to do about it.
Yep. Again, we're back to the questions, and I would ask a question before I ask that one, because that's a good one, is do I believe that love wins?
Right.
Do I believe that love is more powerful than darkness? Do I believe that love is more powerful than bad behavior? Do I believe that love is more powerful than anything on the planet? I've got to ask that question.
So for me, that's a yes. I was already there.
That's a 3.
I was already there. Yeah, I was already at that place. But yes, I hear you.
Not everybody's there.
If you hadn't thought about that, answer that question, and then do this.
And this is a really good point. All right, that in order to, we're going to talk about this in an upcoming episode called Root and Fruit. All right, that if you don't deal with the root of this discussion, is God love? All right. Does love win? All right. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the root of the scenario. All right. So if you adopt that root truth, then what Stu's talking about, there's the way it manifests,
Right.
Jesus said it over and over. You got to check the root. If the root is not solid, then the branches are not going to be solid. The fruit will be rotten. So you've got to really understand love is, and no matter what happens, no matter how difficult or how much it feels like I'm losing, love will win.
Yep.
It's not me. Take my personality out of the equation and take God's personality out of the equation, because God doesn't have a personality.
Well, okay. That might have got some people right there. Oh, did you guys hear that? Okay. Hello.
God does not have a personality. God is like fire. I like to liken God to fire. Is it good? Is it bad? It just is. Electricity. Is it good? Is it bad? It just is. You either use it or you don't. It's either in your favor because you're asleep or you're awake. That's what love is to me.
Whoa.
That's what God is to me.
Whoa.
Wow.
What do you think, Stu?
My brain is...
I know, it's just exploding
on fire.
Now, right? Yeah.
It's on fire right now.
Well, the last thing, we're going to kind of wrap this thing up a little bit, but let's not lose sight of the fact that in this, amongst it, through it, just every part of it, for the most part, is a mystery. I mean, there's mystery just oozing out of this whole thing, because we can talk all we want, and we're doing the best we can, and we're articulating certain truths, and we're learning from each other, and we're gaining wisdom. But at the end of the day, too, don't think that we can just wrap our arms around this whole concept and think we've got it. Because the minute you take the mystery out of it, the unknown, that I believe this, but help me in my unbelief. As you hear reading the Bible, right? You have to be really careful, because we will start to tell a story. We have our own story that we tell about God, about us, about ourselves. And, a lot of times God's telling a different story, and we're not listening, and we're not paying attention, and we're not tuned in.
And what is the tool to get into that mystery, to feel that expansiveness? That's where we started. Ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't live in your answers. Expand. Don't contract.
Right. And there's lots of ways you can do about that. We've talked about many of those, whether it's meditating, whether it's ask the questions of your friends, just ask the question, period, and let the Spirit help you discern. I mean, whatever it might be, but we got to think differently about it, right? That's one of our main mantras, right?
When was the last time any of us said, what do you think? What do you feel? Who's God to you? What is God to you? Those are really good questions.
Absolutely.
If we're not shut down, I don't really want to know your answer. I just want to convert you. No, I really want to know how you're experiencing God, love, and all of that thing.
Yeah.
That's all about questions.
I think it's great.
So many people are, all about answering your questions. And I'm saying if we don't question our answers, we have stopped the flow of God and love in our life.
So add this phrase to your list of phrases.
Every time? Okay.
You ready? Tell me more about that.
Yep.
And see what happens.
Exactly. Yep. It's not condemning. It's not putting somebody on the spot. Of course, it depends on how you say it too, right? But again, if you're doing it in the right frame of mind, like you just
tell
did.
me more. Like I'm curious. Yeah. Just tell me more about that.
Well, and that's going to cause you had to confront the people that told you that question is going to hell. Tell me more about God. Oh, you're going to hell. you got to confront that system that lives in a lot of people. Not
Right.
you anymore, because you're brighter than the average bear. But the reality is, Johnny, you can't put Johnny in the corner anymore.
Well, let's come out of the corner. All of you Rogers, man, you need to come out of the corner.
No, you know what happened is people came with me. Now I have more people over there in the corner.
He built
That's
a
what
church in
happened.
the corner.
Yeah.
Well,
Like the whole class is in the corner now.
Yeah, but you know what? They're coming up with some new answers that this world desperately needs, which is exciting.
What they're doing in the corner is they're pushing the walls out.
That's it.
That's right.
Pushing them down. Yep. So
Going to the inside edge.
You know, let us encourage you in this. Practice the rule of love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just say, look, however I'm gritting what I'm reading in the Bible, what I'm reading anywhere, it doesn't matter. Whether I'm living my life, making a decision, like Stu was just talking about, am I going to run it through the rule of love?
Yeah.
And believe me, it doesn't have to get a lot more complicated than that. It's hard enough. All right?
What does love require of me
now?
right now in this
right.
situation?
So there we are. All right, gang. So cool. But, you know, what's going to come with that, right? Of course, that we have to accept some responsibility.
No doubt. Rogers, your ongoing mission, should you choose to accept it, is this. Decide to go rogue. Find
okay over there?
like-minded Rogers. They're out there and they're right next to you.
Yes, they are.
Strap on the armor, storm those gates, and unleash the unthinkable.
This is what we're all about, gang. I love it. I love it.
Sound
So,
effects by the Rev.
Take up the call. Answer the call. Answer the call. We got Reb pretty excited over here, so I'm hoping you guys are.
It wasn't sound effects. It was indigestion.
I was wondering. So thanks for listening this week, gang. Love wins. And we totally believe that. I hope you will begin to at least chew on it a little bit. You know, read the book again, and man, oh man, it'll blow your mind. I'm just telling you right now, if you have never been exposed to any of this. So, thank you, my wise guys.
Love you both,
man. Such wisdom.
I'm so glad of this reminder. I'm actually going to reread the book.
Yeah. It changed my life. That's
Yeah.
all I could really say. So, thank you guys for your wisdom, for your love. You know, it's so good. Again, thank you guys out there for listening to us, engage with us, and let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you're loving. We would love to hear that. And tune in next week when we'll bring some more of our wise guyness to the equation and to the table. So have a great week. Take care. Enjoy your holiday. And we'll see you next week.
Wow, you made it and can now unbuckle. Thanks for listening to Love Wins, a conversation that suggests that we have been on an adventure in missing the point regarding eternity. Remember to visit the website at gorogue.life for lots of follow-up information. See the show notes for any links to episode content, and check out the Seeing Differently blog. Oh, and of course, tell everyone you know about us and like, follow, and engage. Be sure to tune in next week when Mac unleashes another unthinkable conversation. That is, if you dare.